Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Welcome to Eyeshadow Palette Month. This is going to be my favorite eyeshadow formulas. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In today's video, I will be sharing you my top 10 favorite eyeshadow formulas. This is not about color story. This is not about like longevity. This is just eyeshadow formula and how it applies to my eyes and how I feel it's super easy to get to a look and that the brand still does something interesting as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you in today's video. Before we get into it, I would like to tell you a little bit more about the channel, just in case you're new here. My name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a culture neutral undertone, and this greatly influences how I feel about makeup. I have been reviewing makeup for more than a decade. I love trying out eyeshadow palettes, essence and catrice, and getting the use out of my makeup. So if that's something you're interested in, then I hope you'd like to consider subscribing. So yes, my top 10 favorite eyeshadow formulas. As I already mentioned in the intro, this is not about color story. This is not about necessarily how things last on my eyes per se, because I feel that that's not due to just the eyeshadow formula. I think there are steps you can take in your makeup application and also like other things you can do, like makeup techniques that will help you make things last. So that's not always down to just the formula. It also has to do with your eye shape and other things like that, whether things will crease easily or not. But I always double prime my lids. I use a MAC paint pot first of all. I first use a clear, like grippy eyeshadow primer. Then I top that off with a MAC paint pot once the first primer has set, which I then set with another powder eyeshadow. So there are some steps there. I also use a little bit of setting spray every single time I do my makeup. And if a eyeshadow is especially glittery, or I know it's a little bit more prone to creasing because it's a very creamy formula, I will just use a glitter glue underneath it. And I rarely experience creasing with my eyeshadows. 9 out of 10 times it just stays put. So for me, I feel that using brushes and layering and those kind of techniques as well go into how your makeup is going to wear. I'm now currently seeing a lot of people on TikTok that say you can also set eyeshadow with your face powder. So take a bit of loose powder to help things to blend and also, again, add a layer of protection to your eyeshadow. There's so much you can do to make your eyeshadow work for you, so I don't feel that has to do with eyeshadow formula. What I do feel influences eyeshadow formula is blendability. Blendability, buildability, and the way things can be applied with especially brushes, fingers, and other techniques. I'm not a huge lover of super flaky shimmers because I always feel they're very difficult to pick up with brushes and they're best applied just with your fingers. Does that make it bad eyeshadow? No, but it's just not my preferred way because I don't have a lot of lid space. So I always want to go in small layers, and the best way to do that is to use brushes. So for me, a good eyeshadow formula is an eyeshadow formula I can use with brushes. I can intensify it with a shimmer, with my finger if need be. I may want to use a glitter glue, but I have options. And those options is what makes it good for me. So today I'm going to be sharing you my top 10 favorite eyeshadow formulas that are currently in my makeup collection that I really enjoy. So first things first, I have some higher end things in here and I also have some indie things in here. I definitely think that if you spend a little bit more, that you also get better eyeshadow quality. That doesn't mean that the drugstore cannot do good eyeshadow. There are definitely things that they do right, but I do feel it's a little bit more hit and miss and it's not consistent throughout the brand as well. So the brands I'm recommending, everything I've tried from them has good quality. That's the way I see it. And the first brand I had to think of was this, Viseart. I think Viseart is one of the best eyeshadow formulas on the planet. They're mattes, they're shimmers, everything performs really, really consistently. It never creases too badly on me with all of the steps that I take to prevent creasing already. And I just feel it stays looking nice and vibrant on my skin as it wears throughout the day. I don't experience a lot of fading with this or anything like that, but I also just really enjoy a lot of their color stories. I'm not gonna lie. Another thing I love about Viseart palettes is that very often they do the thinking for you, and you can just use their palettes as is. All of the shades will go together. You can use them as quads. You can use it as like a 5-pan. You can, whatever combination you make, it will work. But the reason why I love this so much is how blendable it is and how easy this is to apply. These eyeshadows blend themselves. It's never too... how should I explain this? With some indie brands, I find that we get pigment and then I need to blend for days in order to get the look I like. With this, all you need is good brushes and you're good to go. And it does the job for you. It blends seamlessly every single time. It's foolproof no matter what shade I've tried. And I've got quite a few of these Viseart palettes. I've got quite a few in my makeup collection. And I just feel they're so consistent, so easy to use. The packaging is super slim and easy to carry around. Viseart just has so many things going for them. And I just feel that not enough people are talking about them. So that's why I had to give them a shout out here. Another brand whose eyeshadow formula I really, really adore is Victoria Beckham Beauty. The minute I tried this, I knew that this was something differently from what I had tried. It is a very boring color story. So this is why I'm saying color story here doesn't really matter for me, because if the quality is this good, I don't mind that I need to bring a shimmer into it. This is really, really intuitive in the way you can use it. And the shimmer and the mattes in here are just really, really pretty. I also tried Royal, and with that one, I struggled just a touch to get it to blend really nicely, but I think that it's the blues in there or something. However, it was still the same formula. So it wasn't necessarily down to the formula. I think it was the pigment of the actual color that sort of made it look just a touch patchy, and I had to work a little bit harder, but it's a minute difference. This glided on so easily. You can really build this up to create like the perfect smoky eye. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about this. Indie brand wise, I also have some favorites. And one of my favorites is the Rogue palette from Fenty Cosmetica. Fenty Cosmetica is one of my favorite brands because they are indie. They give you that boom kapow pigment and interesting shimmers and sparkly things and duochromes or whatever, but not in the weird, flaky, practically cream formulas that I'm really, really curious to see how they're gonna hold up when they dry out, and they may go super crumbly and just fall out of the pan. But with Fenty Cosmetica, I feel they're very workable and so much easier to apply than other brands I've tried, which is why they're like number one favorite indie brand at the minute, at least one of them. And the Rogue is just my favorite color story by them. So that's why I grabbed that one to show it to you in this video today. This is super pretty. It's intensely pigmented. Like this black, it's black. It's not like borderline gray like the Victoria Beckham one is. This is just incredibly stunning. And you can see, hopefully, that, for instance, this has a bit of a shift. This one as well. Like, is it brown? Is it green? Is it brown? Is it green? So they also bring you that interesting thing that you want an indie brand to have nowadays. I feel with indie brands, if they don't do multi-chromes and duochromes, people are going to ask them if they're okay. Like, are you okay? Or is this where we're going? I feel that that's like the standard for indie brands, and Fenty Cosmetica definitely delivers. I love that these are 9 pans, because so many indie brands give you so many shades and then you look at it and you don't know what to do. But this, you still have options, you still have different things to play with, but it's very nicely curated. And because these palettes are smaller, the initial investment is also a little bit lower than with those brands that give you 25 pans. Sure, they're more expensive, and if you break it down like into price per pan, they are less expensive than this is, because this is pretty expensive for just 9 shades. It's like, I think you pay like €5 for every pan that you get in here. Whereas with Ensley Rain, because you get 25 pans, even though the palette is like twice as expensive, you do the math. So I definitely feel that really goes into how you shop and what you're looking for. But I think that if you're like initially looking for an indie brand to try, you may not want to shell out €100 before you've ever tried the formula. And I feel that Fantasy Cosmetica has been very smart with making these smaller palettes that allow you to make it a little bit more manageable. If you gather a couple of these color stories, you have a really, really great variety because they do more neutrally things, they do more colorful things. And for some reason, they also do quite a lot of cool tones. So that makes me really happy too. So Fantasy Cosmetica is one of my favorites for that reason. Another higher end product that I wanted to mention here is Lisa Eldridge. Like Victoria Beckham, the minute I tried this, I was like, oh, this is something special. This is something unique. This is something different. This is something I haven't tried before. Again, interesting color stories, very, very consistent as well. I've tried the Sorcery palette as well, and I just think it's amazing. We all know I love Lisa Eldridge as a brand anyways, but this also has those taupey things. We get something a little bit more shimmery. We get a velvet shade in here as well, a regular shimmer and a regular metallic, and it's just really stunning. 6 pans, and we get 4 different formulas. And each one of the formulas is amazing. Yes, one of them is intended, this one is intended to be more of a topper. So don't expect it to go on super duper opaque, because that's not the way it was designed to go. That's another thing that I always find weird. Like, some people think that because I like K-Beauty palettes, that I don't know eyeshadow, but they're designed to be a wash of color. If you love super pigmented shadow, go for something like Fantasy Cosmetica. You don't have to go for the K-Beauty stuff. But I think those can be really nice too. So it depends on what you're looking for as well. And in terms of what I'm looking for, buildable, blendable eyeshadow, Lisa Eldridge takes the cake. Another indie brand, and I think the most affordable one of all of them that I'm showing you today, is Glamshop. And Glamshop is so good. Their palettes are limited edition, but they also do singles, and they very often do sales on their single shadows. So if one of the palettes they do has been discontinued, you can very often still find a couple of shades as part of their singles, and the singles quality is as good as the palette quality. So if you're looking for a good eyeshadow, you're based in the EU, then maybe go Glamshop, because they do some really nice things. As I mentioned, their palettes are limited edition, which is a little bit sad. And they do that super flaky sort of shimmer, but in a good way, in a way that I like it, that I can get down with it. They do interesting color stories for sure. They very often do more mattes than shimmers in their eyeshadow palettes as well, which, chef's kiss, I really enjoy. This is, again, like Fantasy Cosmetica, boom, kapow, in your face, pigment, shimmer, shine, wham, bam, kazam. This is for the pigmentation lovers. And they do it really, really well. In fact, I'm wearing another Glamshop palette on my eyes today. You can see that this is impactful eyeshadow. It's high shine, it's creative, it's fun, and they do so many different things. And I just think they do really good things at an affordable price point. I mean, their palettes are like just over 20 euros. And their singles can be as cheap as like €1.50 if you buy them in the sale. So definitely stay tuned for their website, because they do some nice things. So I was very much umming and ahhing because I wanted to stick to just 10. And I just mentioned K-Beauty, but I think the thing I've tried to open the gateway to K-Beauty for me in terms of eyeshadow has been Kaleidos. And I have mentioned this many times before. I think these Kaleidos quads that they have been doing in recent years is their way of doing K-Beauty style makeup for the Western market. That's how I really feel about Kaleidos as a brand currently. They really do a lot of like K-Beauty-esque things, but then they do it in a way that it's going to appeal to a Western audience. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people who see me do these K-Beauty videos or see me rank K-Beauties quite highly in a lot of my videos whenever I do rankings, they don't understand why I like it so much, but I tend to like a wash of color. And the reason why I like a wash of color is these palettes, because yes, these are impactful, but they're light and they're very fair skin friendly, and they have these like almost glittery kind of shimmers that a lot of K-beauty palettes do as well. So for me, if you want entry-level K-beauty, I think Kaleidos is the best way to sort of tickle that itch. And especially this one, this is Venus Trap. Yes, I'm correct. Is one of my favorites. It's super light, but you can create a little bit of depth if you want. And these mix and match really well as well. So if you have a few of these Kaleidos ones, they go together really nicely. And then I have Twilight Rush, which is the purpley one. And then this shimmer with the other palette, so beautiful. Or the shimmer from that palette with these mattes and this like satiny gray. It's so stunning. It's so stunning. And these are such good cool tones as well. Kaleidos. Do more of these. We haven't seen new eyeshadow from Kaleidos in a while. Maybe as I'm like posting this, because I'm pre-filming, they could announce something, because I think the last time we got them was also like September, October time, I think. So maybe this fall we'll get some more Kaleidos quads. I hope so, because I really enjoy these. A European-based indie brand for those people who do like their boom kapow, impactful shimmers and mattes that also do really good cool tone color stories. And they're called Glossgots. If you've never heard of them, they're Swedish. I really adore this brand. It's slim, it's easy to carry around, and the first gal on Jupiter. So pretty. They also do more creative things where they have effects palette that essentially is nothing but 12 duochromes that really allow you to play around with things. They also discontinue things from time to time, which is a bit of a shame, but they definitely keep around some of their best sellers for a longer time, and they do some really stunning things. I really fell in love with them the minute I tried them. Some people have mentioned in comments that this looks like ColourPop. It's not ColourPop. If you've tried ColourPop and you then try this, you understand. These shimmers are so much more impactful. The mattes are so much more blendable. And again, for an indie brand that does such good eyeshadow quality, they are cheaper, much cheaper than other indie brands. Something like Unearthly is more expensive than this. Ensley Rain, they're all more expensive than this is. These retail for around 40 euros. 40 euros. Whereas all the other ones are like twice as expensive. So to me, that's a really good bang for your buck. It's 12 shades, so it's not too overwhelming. You don't get too much of an influx of like new things and then you need to figure out what to do with them. The color stories are very well curated. They do interesting duochromes and multichromes in every single one of their palettes. And if you opt for one of their effects palettes, you're going to have so much fun just playing around and creating things like this where you have something shiny and shimmery all over, and they even combine really well. And yeah, Glossgots is just such good eyeshadow quality. I keep recommending them. I think, did I put this? I think this was my #1 palette of all of the palettes I tried in the first half of this year. Enough said. And if I think of like a Sephora brand that I really enjoy the formula by, like I could have picked so many other things, but as I mentioned, I wanted to stick to just 10. And for one of those, I have to do it, Natasha Denona. Her color stories can be a bit hit and miss for me. Like I've organized so many of them for me because it's just not perfect. But the I Need a Nude combines the amazing Natasha Denona formula with the best color story for my skin tone ever. I love this thing. What I love about Natasha Denona is, again, the blendability, the buildability, the fact that this just goes on effortlessly and I don't have to think about it and what things will look like when it goes on. I don't have to blend for days. Things don't stick weirdly. It's not patchy. It just goes on seamlessly every single time. So I love that. You get mattes, you get shimmers, but Natasha Denona is also the queen of textures. And I love myself a bit of texture in my eyeshadow. I don't just want it to be a matte or a satin or a matte and a metallic. Miss Natasha gives us topper shade. She gives us velvet mash. Again, there are always like 4 or 5 different formulas in all of her palettes. And I just love it. I know not everybody is a big fan of the cream to matte or the creamy matte or whatever it's called. I personally don't mind it. I think it's a really nice formula. I like that on me. It blends really well still. Maybe it depends on what kind of brushes you use. So definitely if you find an eyeshadow that you feel looks a little bit patchy, use a different brush. Try a different brush. If the shimmer isn't super impactful, use a finger. Wet it. Yeah, so I definitely think we sometimes need to work a little bit harder than just saying, oh, this is bad eyeshadow. No, you just need to know how to do makeup. That could be another reason, right? So, but these are some of my favorites, and I have 2 more left for you. And both of these, I prefer as singles, but they do palettes as well. But I mostly have singles. My favorite singles in my collection are by these 2 brands. Sure, I also love my Glamshop things, but if I were to like think of, okay, I want to expand my singles collection, how would I do that? I would instantly get more Sydney Grace for the neutrals and Clionadh for the multi-chromes and the fun things. I haven't tried palettes from Clionadh, but I have tried other things by them as well. From Sydney Grace, I have now tried some of their palettes, and I like them. I have this is the Love's Journey, and I have the Heaven on Earth, and the 3 Temptalia collabs that they did. However, what I have found with Sydney Grace palettes, they do light and dark versions of all of their palettes, and that sounds really good, but I have just found that everything skews very warm toned for them. They do cool tones in this, which I like, but this is quite warm toned compared to this, like on my skin tone. So I wish they would do light and cool. I wish cool and warm rather than light and dark. Because there's only usually 1 or 2, sometimes 3 crease shades that are a slightly lighter shade. That's usually the difference between the palettes, but the shimmers are usually the same. And for me, also the shimmers need to be different for it to truly work for me. So that's why I'm like, you know what? If I were to buy from Sydney Grace again in the future, it would probably be single shadows, because then I can pick and choose what I want myself. And as I mentioned, a lot of my single shadows that I've kept around over the years are Sydney Grace. If you're looking for, well, I wouldn't call it Viseart quality, because it's definitely a different formula. But I feel that what I get from a lot of my Viseart is what I also get from Sydney Grace. Their mattes, amazing, impactful, blendable, buildable, easy to use. So many different shades available. Every single time I use a Sydney Grace shadow, in terms of formula, it's just foolproof. It's just foolproof every single time. So that's why I think Sydney Grace, if you want to invest in their singles more so than their palettes, I would definitely recommend it. They are available on monolith now as well. I think their palettes are available on monolith. So if you're in the EU and you find it too expensive to buy this from the Sydney Grace website, then definitely find that. They do sales twice a year for Black Friday, and they do one in July. So they just did it, I think, by the time this video goes up. So that's a bit of a shame. But they always do a Christmas in July sale. So if you're looking to find some Sydney Grace and you want to try them for the first time, then I think those 2 moments in the year are the best ones. And then finally, I need to mention Clionadh, and I built this palette myself. This is an expensive one because these shades are not cheap, and I have a bit of room for more, but I definitely want to not invest in any more singles at the minute. I have a bit of a wish list with more of these, and the reason why I'm holding up this palette is because I think when it comes to multi-chromes, duochromes, it's Clionadh that sets the standard to me. If you're looking for good multi-chromes and you've tried these and you then start trying multi-chromes from other brands, in my experience, all those other brands pale in comparison to what Clionadh has to offer. In terms of doing multi-chromes in different textures, different formulas, different undertones, so many multi-chromes are always like that jewel tone sort of version, which I like, but in a lot of palettes and what a lot of brands do in palettes that have started doing multi-chromes ever since it became popular, I find we always get the same thing. And I love how Clionadh definitely does something else. I've also tried a lot of their round pans, and those are amazing too. Clionadh shines though in the shimmer department. They do really, really good shimmers. Be it round, be it these square stained glass ones. They keep coming out with different renditions of stained glass formulas, different shifts. I think they now do ones that have 5 shifts with a bit of glitter in there as well. So they're really expanding the range all the time. As I mentioned, I would like to get some more of these at some point and fill up the rest of this palette. I'm not ready for that yet because I'm currently not really using my singles. So it's usually a purchase I make when I'm really like getting back into the singles again. And this has definitely been something that I've been building up over the years. It's not something I bought in one go, because when you buy these with your own money, it's a lot of money for sure. Killawat is also based in Canada, so it is quite expensive to buy. They have expensive shipping in Canada as well. My favorites are these more muted tones in the middle, like these rows, and then these very light things. So these all look white in the pan, but they all have a different shift, and it's so pretty for complementing looks. And one of the things that I don't like about multi-chromes is that very often when you use them, you can't use too many of them together because the shifts will just disappear when you try to blend them into other things, but you can only use one, especially with the deeper things. But these are great as like to top over things or to pair with just a bland matte, and then you can really amp up any look with this. And I've definitely selected a lot of these back when I was like building myself little eyeshadow palettes with my singles every single month. I was reaching for this palette every single time, and I always selected one or two of these because they go with everything. And they're just the best. They are ultimately the best. So yes, those are the eyeshadow formulas that I wanted to mention in this video that are my favorites. I could have mentioned more easily for sure. Clio, Romand, they're both K-beauty brands that I really enjoy, and I think they do some really nice things. It's just that for me, K-beauty eyeshadow is still sort of an area that I'm exploring, I feel. So I don't feel right at the minute to really say like, okay, then these are my favorite K-beauty brands. I definitely think it's Clio and Romand, but I don't feel I've tried enough to really be able to say like, these are the things I really like from this sort of kind of like that kind of formula for sure. Another thing I'm thinking of right now is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette that I tried this year. Love that too, but it's the only Makeup by Mario palette I've tried to date. So I don't feel I have tried enough from the brand to really be able to say like, oh yeah, it's super consistent as well, and every palette he does is great. So that's why I didn't want to mention that here, even though that one also gave me that influx of like, oh yeah, this is something new and exciting that I've never tried before, formula-wise. I mean, it's a pretty boring color story, but formula-wise, that one's really nice as well. So yeah, I could have easily made this a top 15 or maybe a top 20. I definitely could have, but I wanted to limit myself. So let me know in a comment down below what your favorite formulas are. I would love to know. Maybe you feel very differently. I feel this is a very personal thing. So definitely don't think that if you like something differently that you're doing something wrong, or that if you feel that I'm wrong because you like other things, it's not that deep. It's only makeup. So let's have a fun discussion in the comments down below. Thumbs up this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more about me. I'm currently doing daily videos all about eyeshadow and eyeshadow palettes. So like stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next one. Bye bye.